This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily, a big game day edition as the Jets continue to try to push for a playoff spot. Still can't believe I'm saying that as we finish up March, but they are still in it. Got a lot of help on the weekend and a huge win in Colorado. And they are just 3 points back of the Nashville Predators, who are idle tonight. And a win could put them just 1 point back, albeit still in the middle of a huge pack of teams that are still sniffing around that second wild card spot in the West. It was an interesting night last night in the National Hockey League. We had the firing of Brad Treleving, which we'll get to. The Gudis revenge game for the Toronto Maple Leafs. But at the same time, a big game in that Western Turtle Derby between the St. Louis Blues and the San Jose Sharks. And it was the Sharks scoring late and beating the Blues in regulation last night, 5-4. So as we go into action tonight, the wild card standings are the Preds in that spot with 77 games. They played 74. The Kings are 1 point back with a game in hand. The Kraken and Sharks are 2 points back with 2 games in hand. And the Jets are 3 back with a game in hand, and they can close to 1 point, as I mentioned, with a win tonight. We are going to talk a lot of hockey today. Brandon Rewucki of Skates and Plates is going to jump on with us in the first segment. And then we'll head out to Chicago and talk with Ken Wiebe of the Winnipeg Free Press. A big crowd around Jonathan Toews, as you would expect. The second visit to Chicago as a visitor, coming off his very quality first pitch at Wrigley on the weekend, along with all of his teammates. But in the first segment, we will hear from Scott Arneal with the latest on the lineup. We'll get to the clean line lines for tonight's game and much more later on in the program. This is probably my favorite interview of the year. When AEW, All Elite Wrestling, comes to town, that means that Winnipeg's own Don Callis returns to WST. And if it is anything like his previous visits to Winnipeg Sports Talk, this will be one not to be missed. Always hilarious. And in character, Mr. Callas returns to his hometown in WST a little bit later on. There you have it. You can see the man himself right there in the middle. He'll be there tomorrow night. Tickets are still available. We'll be there. Should be fun. 6:30 things get going. And, of course, that'll be live on TSN or one of the TSN channels, maybe TSN2, from 7 to 9. And they're also doing the Collision show. So if you are a wrestling fan, tomorrow night, Canada Life Center, certainly the place to be. Our focus, though, is on everything going on around the National Hockey League. Later on today, we'll touch on a very rough night for the Toronto Blue Jays against the Rockies of all teams. But the focus, as I mentioned, on puck drop tonight at the United Center. Just before we bring in Michael Remis, big thanks to all the sponsors that make WST happen each and every day. Don't forget, we do have one more Winnipeg Sports Talk night at the Jet game. It's going to be a fun one. Saturday, April 11th against the Philadelphia Flyers. Could be a huge game for both teams, depending on what they do over the course of the next 10 days or so. Go to winnipegjets.com/WST to grab your tickets. Also got to thank our friends at CoolBet. Don't forget, a week tomorrow, April 8th, is our next poker game, 8 p.m. We'll have details on our socials as to how you can enter. If you played before, you know how it works. If not, Make sure to join us. It should be a heck of a lot of fun. Also want to thank the great people at Princess Auto, Chud's Power Sports, Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical, Uptown Alley, St. Vital Dental Center, Rolly's Transfer, Manitoba Building Trades, and the Manitoba Federation of Labor, Manitoba Battery, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, our friends at Breezy Bend, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, Little Brown Jug, and of course we'll get to a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGill. Over Remis, what's up?
Hey, yeah, you mentioned the Blue Jays losing to the Rockies last night. I was thinking all night of our conversation on the show where we're like, oh, this line can't be high enough for the Jays. And, 162 games, any team can win on any night. And there was the Rockies yesterday putting the hurt. And also we talked about starter Ponce, who got injured, and kind of waiting to hear what happened to him. That was a tough one, but hey, back to the hockey. Big game tonight. I don't know if it's the biggest game of the year for the Jets, but if they want to stay alive, they have to win. Playoff chances around 10%, could go up to 15 as per Money Puck with a win, but 2 points any which way, regulation, overtime, shootout. Got to keep pace there in this wild card chase where it seems like nobody wants to grab the ball by the horns and take hold as a wild card 2 slot. So we'll see what happens tonight.
It really is crazy. By the way, yeah, just on that Jays last night, Brendan Little. I mean, I saw someone said that he had just been loaned to North Korea online. Don't think that was legit. I don't believe he's on his way to North Korea, but anywhere other than going to the mound for the Jays last night. And it sucked because we did have that Royals, Jays puck run line, and Mariners, and your Mariners got it done. The Royals got it done. The Jays didn't. But we'll get back to the drawing board and the cool bet lines a little later on today. After last night's Sharks win, devastating loss for the Blues, who I believe had a 12 percentage chance of making the playoffs. They dropped down to 5.2%. The Kings are the favorite of this entire group to make the playoffs, and their chances are only 33%. It really is crazy. 33% for the Kings, 25% for the Sharks, 24% for Seattle, 21% for Nashville, and 10.5% for the Winnipeg Jets, and St. Louis is at 5.2%. So, I mean, if anyone tells you that they know how this is going to play out, they're full of it. The one thing that you can take to the bank, that if the Winnipeg Jets are going to be in the mix in that final week, they cannot give away games like tonight. And as you mentioned, Remo, and we'll kind of dive into the cool bet lines on the Jets side of things in a minute. This Chicago team has really hit the skids. They're back in a very familiar place, which is right near the top of the draft lottery. And if you're a Blackhawks fan, after all of these high picks over the last few years, I guess you're just hoping that for a little more lottery luck, and maybe a Gavin McKenna could be a perfect winger for Mr. Bedard long-term in Chi-Town. As you can see, it's Bedard with Nick Lardis and Ryan Green. Anton Frondell, who's just getting his feet wet in the National Hockey League after joining the club, I believe, last week with Bertuzzi and Mikheyev. Frank Nazar, one of their young players of which much is expected of, in between Burakovsky and Donato. And then Sam Lafferty between Tuvo Teralainen and Landon Slaggert. The blue line, Alex Vlasic, Louis Crevier, Sam Rinzel, Walt Kaiser, Kevin Korchinski, who's up, and Ethan Del Maestro. Spencer Knight, they certainly got a stud in net. Arvid Soderblom, but it looks like it'll be Spencer Knight tonight. So I think we know where things are at, Remo. This is a game that the Winnipeg Jets absolutely have to have. And I'm sure when we click on the Money Puck rankings, it will tell us that it is a huge game for the Winnipeg Jets. Let's see. It's a big game for the Jets. A win in regulation would take the Jets to 14.8%. So it seems like sort of every one of these games is going to increase in difficulty over the next little while. You got road games in Dallas, a road game in Columbus against a desperate Blue Jackets team. None of those games are going to matter if they can't get it done tonight, though.
That's right. They need to win this one to keep it going. And the Blackhawks, I was surprised to see that their penalty kill, ranks first in the NHL, 84.2%. We know the struggles the Jets have had on the power play since the Olympic break. Special teams could be a factor in this one. However, the Blackhawks roster very changed since the deadline. Jason Dickinson, who was a big part of that, off to Edmonton. Murphy as well, off to Edmonton. And we look at these lines, and, I'm a guy, I follow a lot of the teams, playing a lot of daily fantasy, looking at line combinations like, who is this roster? Has very young team, especially down the middle. I mean, these guys could be pretty good down the road. We know Bedard, he's pretty good now. Frondell, they just brought him in. Frank Nazar, he signed the big contract, but hasn't really emerged as full-time superstar or anything. So this roster, it's a rebuilding team. I'll say that, and they're going for draft lottery. I'm curious if they're going to eventually get and win that top pick, Huss. But this is, as you said, the Jets, if they think they're a playoff team, which they think they are, you need to win this game. You need to beat up on the bad teams. You can't have a no-show on offense like they did the last time they played in Chicago when Jonathan Toews returned. That was such a rough showing, man.
Another 2 points that was left on the table that would come in real handy right about now.
That was a terrible game. Like, it was cool to see Toews, get the ovation, do the skate around, but they didn't show up. And they've had, some time in Chicago. They were all at the game, Cubs game on Sunday. It was optional practice yesterday, and then back at it today.
Yeah, listen, a bit of rest coming off a big win. I don't think many people thought they'd be beating Colorado. They did, but as I said, you got to make that worth it. It means something by winning this game tonight. As far as the Jets side of things go, let's check in on the Clean Line lines for our friends at Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical. Your one-stop shop with over 40 years of experience for Winnipeg residential and commercial plumbing, heating, and electrical services. Don't forget, Clean Line's got you covered 24/7 with emergency services. Mark down the number when you need it, 204-500-2001. You can check them online at cleanline.ca. Shifley with Connor and Iafallo, Adam Lowry in between Cole Perfetti and Gabe Vilardi, who just set a career high for goals in a season. Taves with Koepke and Lambert. And then the kid line of Danny Zhilkin, Isaac Rosine, and Parker Ford. Defense looks like it'll be the way things stayed in Chicago or in Colorado, with DeMello back with Morrissey, Sandberg and Pionk, and Elias Salamonson with Jacob Bryson. We forgot to mention Bryson actually got the camo jacket last game. So with the win tonight, he'll get to give it out for the first time. Hellebuck expected in the net for the Winnipeg Jets as we finish up the Clean Line lines. And, Reem, with Gus Nyquist, healthy scratch today. I don't know. I'm leaning more towards that the under 0.5 on games remaining for Gus this season, considering, at this point they put the kids in, they won, they beat Colorado. I don't think that's going to change if they keep winning. And if they lose and it's less likely of being in the playoffs, I think it's even more reason to play the young guys. So we may have seen the last of Gus in the lineup with the Jets.
Yeah, I always like to have caution saying, well, you never know. There could be like a bunch of injuries and they have to play him, but that does make a lot of sense. Like, they just beat the best team in the league in Colorado without him. You're going to keep rolling. They need to win pretty much every game if they want to get in. And if they lose, you're right, they're out. So you might as well play the young guys. And, they're presumably not playing Heinola because, well, they don't see a future with him on the team. Well, it's pretty clear there's no future for Gus Nyquist here, so why play him? Take a look at some of these guys. Cole Koepke's a guy, we're getting a bigger look at here. Third line with Taves and Lambert. Certainly some more speed on the wings there with Jonathan Taves. Koepke did get on the board Saturday, as did Taves and Rosé and Jilkin Ford. Jilkin had one of the faster recorded speeds this year, according for any Jets player, according to NHL Edge stats. So the Jets bring in some youth, some speed. We'll see. And they did have Nino Niederreiter and Vlad Nemestikov, skating in yellow non-contact the last couple. No, I don't think there's any real reason to rush them back here. So I'm curious how that is going to play out. I didn't see Colin Miller. He skated yesterday in non-contact. I didn't see anything. And Hayden Fleury and Ville Heinola skating as the fourth pair. So no changes. I mean, you beat Colorado. I kind of agree. Why change it? And I don't know if you saw Colorado last night. They must have been pissed after losing to the Jets because they laid the smackdown. We're talking about wrestling today on Calgary. What was it 8 goals? They were relentless against them.
It was.
Did not let up.
It was a series of finishing moves by the Colorado Avalanche. It was actually 9 that they got last night. You may have turned it off after they got a snowman. No, it was 9 goals.
I switched to the Leafs
night.
game. You texted me it was starting.
And of course, Kadri had a couple against his old team, as you would imagine. But they definitely spread the wealth last night. Drury, Kadri with 2, Parker Kelly, Landeskog, Arturi Lehkonen, Nate McKinnon, Marty Nakash, and Sam Malinsky for good measure last night. Of course, the huge news yesterday, Rumo, and this was sort of crazy. It's like an hour before the game, Leafs just finishing up their warm-ups in Anaheim, and we got the news that Brad Treleving had been fired by the Toronto Maple Leafs. We'll get to that more with Brandon when he jumps on, because all the attention was on Anaheim anyways with the Leafs, not because the Leafs are going anywhere, but because it was revenge night for the TML after the Austin Matthews got knocked out. And I will give Radko Gudas credit. Listen, I think that he's a scumbag and is one of the dirtiest players in the league, and it was a joke that he only got 5 games. But I will give him credit for knowing that he needed to be out there to stand up and take it and not have his teammates take it. And right off the bat, fought Max Domi in kind of a bizarre fight. I mean, Domi is tough as hell, and he was throwing a bunch of crazy uppercuts. Obviously, he's smaller than Gudas. But Gudas did not throw a punch in that entire fight. And I kind of think it was more by design. Just let him get a bunch of licks in and go from there. It got a little dumb later on with more guys trying to take a run at Gudas and some others. But the bottom line was Gudas, to his word, injured, probably wouldn't have normally played, stepped in there, took a bunch from Max Domi. The Leafs got some semblance of revenge, if you want to call it that, and then did actually storm back from a 3-1 deficit and win the game in overtime.
Yeah, credit to Toronto for a team that's looked really lifeless since the Olympic break to put up a win in Anaheim against, were they Pacific Division leading at the time yesterday? So they are still leading at over 4 points by Edmonton. So credit to them, but I mean, it's been a pretty rough season for Toronto, and that's why you saw the change yesterday. Brad Treliving as GM fired. Pretty much every move he's made in his tenure as GM. I don't think he had hit one single. None of them worked out. You lost Mitch Marner. You brought in Maselli. Then they came out reported that they're not going to re-sign him. But they traded away Scott Lawton. The Carlo trade, trading away Fraser Minton and a first, which they may not have in a year where they really need it. So it's
outside the top 5. Boston's picking.
Yeah,
like Boston could be getting a really good player at 6 or 7, thanks to the Leafs. And ironically, that win last night makes it that much more likely that pick will be in the 6, 7, 8 range than in the top 5. So we'll get to more of the big stories around the league. But as you see the lottery simulator, it's so funny that we're having conversations about the top pick as well as the first round of the playoffs. But it just goes to show how tight everything is right now. But Winnipeg is 7th. What happens if you click it, Remo?
The
Blues. What do we get? Jets stay at 7. St. Louis getting it. You can have fun with this. I often just keep hammering that thing over and over again. Tankathon.com if you want to get into mock draft simulations. But it's not time to really hammer that. Oh, there's a first pick for the Jets. It's not time to hammer it too much right now because, I mean, the Jets have stayed alive to their credit and have a chance to continue to do that and incredibly get to within 1 point of the playoff line with a win tonight. We hit the lines. Ken's going to join us a little later on, just after 2 p.m. But before Brandon joins us, we should hear from head coach Scott Arneal. Just got the audio in from Chicago. Here's Scott Arneal speaking after the morning skate before tonight's 7:30 puck drop in Chi-Town.
Familiar with maybe a different challenge than what you guys faced against Colorado. I know you're not taking anybody lightly, of course, but kind of what's the challenge of going from the top team in the National Hockey League to one that's got a whole bunch of young skill that's still trying to develop their kind of identity, I guess?
2 points against Chicago are exact same 2 points against Colorado. That it's what we have to get to keep going in this race, and if you don't respect your opponent, you're going to end up on the wrong side of it. And that's pretty much the message this morning, that we just went through a stretch of 11 games in 19 days. We got our 2 days off, and it's kind of reset for this last 9 games to make a run at it. And it's we've talked about us having to gain points, and this is an opportunity for us to continue on this road trip of just doing just that. This young team, they're playing loose, carefree, and Blash still has them playing a real solid game, and we're going to have to make sure that we're at our best. We've had a couple of real tight games with them, the last 2 specifically, so we just have to make sure that what we did the other night is a constant. It isn't changing because we're playing a different team.
What are some of the things you'd like to carry over that you were able to do against Colorado?
Yeah, the big thing for me is that we played really fast against a quick team, and Chicago's another quick team. And the other side, we won a lot of our puck battles. We got ourselves in situations where we came out of corners with pucks. We rebounds. We cleaned up the net front. We got to Colorado's net, and so those are a lot of the things that you have to do nightly, and no different here with Chicago. That we got to be heavy, and we got to be consistent with it.
How have you been able to be more consistent on a lot of those fronts since the break?
Harping it. We've been harping it all along here. That's what we talked about with our 7 days of practice and getting ready for this stretch run. Was that we have to be. Play fast. We have to be, consistent on how we do things, and we needed our depth to do it. This is about our 4 lines, all our D contributing. We've been going through bodies here. Using different people, and we have to continue to get contributions from everybody. And we talk about specialty teams have to be good. With and without the puck. Again, those are all things you got to focus in on every shift, and we can't afford to have off shifts or off periods. It's too crucial of a time of the year.
How did Morgan fare after the skate yesterday? Any reports on that, or
went well?
Is there a chance?
I don't know. He's back in Winnipeg. I have no idea. He went well.
Is there a chance?
He's not even till he lands in this next city we're in. We'll have a talk about him. I don't have anything on him. I just heard he skated yesterday, so doing better.
Very good.
So,
we talked in Winnipeg before our game.
Yep.
And I remember you saying you're going to take advantage of that homestand. And from the record, it appears that you did. I think you're 5-1-2 or 5-2-1, something like that. But you had more wins and losses. Do you sense a different attitude from your team since that homestand?
Well, it was really needed. Obviously, our record coming out of the break's been real good, and we've been playing real good against some, especially the top teams. But it's really Kenny's question. It's consistency. We did it at home there, and could have been very well 6-2 in that stand. But at the end of the day, it's just us being all on the same page, doing it shift in, shift out, and the guys recognize that this is a race that it was a big gap. I think we were 9 or 11 when we started this. When we close it off here, and you can see what's happening around the league, that there's pressure now, not just on the Winnipeg Jets. There's pressure on a lot of teams, and everybody's in that pile up, and it's in the East and in the West. Some teams are falling back on it. Some teams are moving ahead, and we'd like to think that we're a veteran group that can handle this scenario, and we did what we had to do at home. We knew this was going to be an extremely tough 4-game road trip, so it's just keep picking away, and that's what we're trying to do.
being in the chase position is new, but the ability to play when the games get harder, do you feel like experience has helped on that front?
Yeah, I think that, obviously we've had a group that's, been through lots in the last year and a half, and, I think that getting guys that feel comfortable in those situations when the game is on the line, that's what you need, and we feel we have game breakers that way starting from our goalie on out. And when you feel comfortable and you play comfortable and you get in an atmosphere like we went in with Vegas at home the other night, with in Colorado, the 2 games against Colorado, those are big moments against big teams, and that's why I say that mentality, that kind of sort of being ready, has to be the same thing against Chicago tonight. So it's just attack each game as its own entity. Make sure that you take care of your business and do the right things to grab those 2 points.
Hey Bob, you hear the news?
I can't listen to the news, Daryl.
This is different.
Oh, it's so negative.
Not this time. Manitoba's got these new jobs agreements, and when the government builds things like new schools and hospitals, they'll hire Manitoba workers first.
Really?
Creating good jobs with union standards and more apprenticeships for Manitobans. And we'll get rid of those out-of-province license plates on job sites.
Keeping our money working for Manitobans, eh?
You betcha.
Well, that's how it should work.
I knew you'd like it.
A message from Manitoba's Building Trades and Federation of Labor.
Spring into good times at Uptown Alley and eat, drink, and play at the most fun spot in the city. You'll enjoy 5-pin bowling, 10-pin bowling, a state-of-the-art arcade, and good times playing laser tag as well. And in addition, Uptown Alley features incredible food and drink options at their bistro. Pop down to Uptown Alley with your group or make it a party. It's the best place in Winnipeg for birthday parties for kids, teens, or adults, and an amazing spot for corporate events where you just simply pick your activities, any of your add-ons, what you'd like to eat, and the Uptown Alley staff takes care of everything else. For more information, go to uptownalley.ca, book a lane at 488-0000, or pop down and see him at 1301 St. Matthews Avenue. Got a move coming up? Lean on our friends and longtime sponsors at Rolly's Transfer, the most trusted name in moving and storage in Manitoba. Now into their 7th decade with over 60 years of experience, family owned and operated. Head over to their website at rollies.com to find out all about their services serving Winnipeg and southern Manitoba. In the top right corner, you can click on Request an Estimate. Use the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies, and then simply let them know when you're moving, where you're moving to, and what needs to be moved, and the friendly staff at Rollies will turn it around quickly and get you a great quote to get you locked in for the white glove treatment that they've been famous for now for over 60 years in Winnipeg. For all your moving needs, make it Rolly's Transfer, the most trusted name in the game. Find out more and request an estimate today on your next move at rollies.com. Has it been a minute since you've been to the dentist? If it is, our pal Doc Harry and the wonderful staff at St. Vital Dental Center would love to see you. They've been taking care of generations of Winnipeggers and Manitobans in St. Vital for years, and have now moved into a beautiful new facility at 167 St. Anne's with state-of-the-art equipment and convenient free parking right behind the building. They'll handle customers and clients from 6 months to 99 plus with a full array of dental services, from cleanings and checkups to surgeries like dental implants. Dr. Terry and the gang can absolutely do it all. We'll do it with a smile on their face and make your smile look even better than it's ever been. Go to stvitaldental.ca online to make an appointment. Pop into St. Vital Dental, get that girl taken care of, and tell them the boys at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. All right, Brandon Rewucki coming up in just a few minutes, and one Ken Wiebe will join us from Chicago a little bit later on. And don't forget, Don Callis, the Winnipeg Zone from AEW Wrestling, joining us. And tomorrow, the stars of AEW will take over Canada Life Center. Very busy night in the National Hockey League, and some big games when it comes to the playoff races. The Bruins hanging on to wild card 1. They're at home to the Dallas Stars. Massive game for the Islanders. Last night, they go up 2-0 on Pittsburgh. And, I mean, Sorokin's probably going to win the Vezina. I hope Vezina voters weren't watching that game last night because they might rethink it. He gave up 7 goals last night. They brought Big Save Dave in for the final one. It'd be interesting to see. They've got back-to-back games, whether they go back with Sorokin tonight or just give Big Save Dave. But they are in Buffalo to take on the Sabres. Sabres are now tied at the top of their division with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Lightning are in first on account of having a game in hand. So massive game for the Islanders. The Lightning, who are right there with Buffalo, they're at home to take on the Montreal Canadiens. What a story the Habs are this year. I think they've won 5 in a row right now. I mean, Cole Caulfield, number 2 in goals in the league. Big test for Montreal tonight in Tampa, who has been rolling. Panthers are done. The Sens are not, though, and Ottawa is in Florida to take on the Panthers. They're 2 back of a playoff spot. They're tied with the Red Wings and all of a sudden the Philadelphia Flyers. So massive game for Ottawa against a Florida team that is looks like well on their way to keeping their pick and picking in the top 10. You've got the Devils and the Rangers, 2 teams that are pretty much out of it. And then another huge game in the East, the Detroit Red Wings against those Pittsburgh Penguins, who had that insane rally down 2-0 to score 8 of the final 9 goals. Pittsburgh is at home. Detroit on the road. The Wings need this 2 points. Pittsburgh could really put themselves in a good position in second place in their division with the win tonight. And there's those Flyers, which we'll talk about with Brandon coming up in just a minute. Philly now 37-24-12, 8-1-1 in their last 10. They're in DC to take on the Capitals. Rick Bonus's Blue Jackets had a real tough weekend. They blew 2 games late and turned 4 points into 1 on home ice. They're still at home, but they got a real tough test tonight in the Carolina Hurricanes. Of course, we've been talking about the Jets Blackhawks game all show long. And then the final game tonight. This will be strange for Jet fans, but everyone will be pulling for the Oilers tonight as the Kraken are in Edmonton to take on the Oil. All right, it looks like Brandon Rewucki is ready to go. Let's bring in the host of Skates and Plates with so much happening around the National Hockey League. Rew, what's up, man? Great to talk to you again.
Yeah, sorry about the delay there, guys, but happy to get into it right now.
Let's start with last night. First off, thoughts on Treleving getting whacked, and I believe, if I'm reading this right, Keith Pelly into the dressing room right after warm-up to let them know before they went out on the revenge tour against Gudis and the Ducks.
Yeah, that's how well-functioning teams operate, right, Huss? You deliver a bomb like that right before you hit the ice.
Why do you think they did that? Like, was that like maybe, okay, the old guys that brought you in there's gone. No matter what, you're working for a new guy. This is a big moment, like trying to max out the angst or anxiety of the team as they go out trying to get retribution?
Yeah, I doubt it was that, to be honest. I just guessing. Playing psychiatrist on how some of these executives like to operate. I'm sure it was maybe a little more of a power play. You know, hey, the big boss made a move and just want you guys to know it, and everything's okay. No need to worry, because it's hard for me to imagine that that's the line of thinking, considering that Craig Berube is still employed by the team, and there appears to be like an open mutiny against their head coach. And it's more important to finish bottom 5 than it is to like get any momentum for next season right now. So it's a disaster for the league. It really is. And it's pretty wild, man, how it's not like Toronto was, you know, trying to, I guess like Tampa Bay 5 years ago, where it's like got this dynastic team ready to go here. They weren't in that spot, but like they had a decent amount of promise. When Treleving came on, sure, they had issues and things like that, but tons of talent. They had, for the most part, lots of picks and some prospects to work with. And it's just been like the earth has been salted. The fires have been started. Like there's nothing left there. And I legitimately wonder, specifically with Matthews and Nylander, where this thing goes. Because even if a new GM comes in, like, they look at the situation. They're not oblivious to it. It's just a complete mess. There's no other way to put it, right?
GMs will always say, you know, I think at the end of their reign, they'd like to say they're leaving the organization in a better place than they found it. Don't think that Brad Treleving is going to be able to say that. I mean, the fact of the matter is that they're where they are right now, and their first-round picks in 2 of the next 3 years, at a time that could be quite lean for the Leafs, have already been traded from picks last year. And I mean, the Boston trade, I mean, this is PTSD for a lot of Leafs fans. But as Brian Hayes said, whoever it comes in as the new general manager, there needs to be a very strict order. You can discuss trades with 30 teams in the NHL, not the Boston Bruins. You lose Sweeney's number. He's on the do not call list, do not pick up list, because it almost seems inevitable when these teams trade, it ends up blowing up spectacularly for Toronto. And the Minton Carlo deal is another example of that.
I mean, it's crazy that even if they get their pick this year back, they lose an unprotected pick in the next couple of years, right? There's a ton of we don't have to go into that, but I mean, they can choose to give one to Boston, one to Philly. I mean, the Philly trade is also almost equally as bad. It kind of gets, I think, pushed under the radar a bit because it's not a direct divisional rival, but same concept. It's just and like we kind of laughed too when I think it was the year when the Jets traded for Stastny, and the Jets were, I think, first place in the NHL or fighting for first, and Chevy put the lotto protection on the pick. Yeah. And everyone's like, oh, man, what an idiot to deal, blah, blah, blah. But then it's like, you see this, and it's like, you know what? Not an idiot anymore. This is kind of, and I think it's just a case of a GM that just loses attention to detail on like, right? Nobody thought it was going to happen, but guess what? These things can happen.
Well, and the fact that it's just top 5 protected. I mean, you look at the difference from the Seth Jones trade with Florida. I mean, did anyone think that Florida was going to stink this year? No one knew that Barkov was going to be out. And
yeah.
I mean, if the Leafs had a top 10 protection, they'd be good.
Yeah.
They would be fine. They'd be having their pick. Here's the thing, though. Like, at a certain point, these invoices are coming due. So if, let's just say they finish and they pick 5th and they make a pick this year, well, then next year, Boston's getting their pick. And then Philly's getting their pick unprotected in 2027. So it's bad. It's really bad.
Yeah. And that might be best case scenario, what you just painted. Which is like, think how disastrous that is. But like, and I mean, I'm not going to get into this whole thing because I've done this delusional path in my head a few times. But like, I do wonder if you're the new GM coming in, and Austin Matthews is like, don't know if I like the direction of this team. Wouldn't mind going south for the rest of my career. You try to get that pick back from Philly, knowing you're not going to get it back from Boston, and then try to save face that way. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That's
Austin Matthews for that first round pick. So it ends up being Scott Lawton for Austin Matthews.
Woo! But I mean, really, if Matthews says he wants out, like, you can't just trade him and then watch somebody else draft the number 1 overall pick, right? So again, I really don't know where they go from here. My guess is that they're going to try to convince everybody to stay, knowing they don't have first round picks, and it's like, let's just try to chase a playoff spot and see what happens, because the alternative
the Matthews sort of thing is wild. I mean, he's got 2 years left on his contract. I mean, we all remember, and listen, I don't want to get into any of the kind of aftermath of the Olympics, but I mean, especially Ottawa, maybe with Brady Tkachuk more than Austin, but Matthews as well, dealing with a lot of stuff that, while people in Canada might think it was completely justified to do it, there is a good chance that some of these guys are thinking like, maybe I would be smart to see what else is out there to see. And I mean, if he's in that mindset, this next GM has to figure that out quickly and execute it. Like, I kind of think that Nylander is going to stay. I mean, he and Nyes are both signed till 2032 and 2031, respectively. So, I mean, if you're trading either of those guys, you're trading with cap certainty on pretty good deals. I mean, considering who those players are. After that, though, I mean, it is an absolute crapshoot. But a Matthews deal, especially if you had a few interested suitors, would be huge. Now, he does have the no move, which certainly does put kind of one hand tied behind your back and often won't really get the bidding war, if you will. But if you got a list of teams that he'd be able to agree to go to, and then they can go make their deal, maybe that works. Did you see the the Ducks Leafs game last night?
I saw the opening puck drop, which was probably, I mean, that was all I needed to see. I didn't need to watch the game.
When I saw the Leafs lineup, I was convinced it was going to be a line brawl. Like, it was a little bit of a, because I mean, they had Domi, they had Benoit, Pizzetta, all that, and Domi went in and threw a million uppercuts to try to take Gudas's head off. He did not throw a punch.
I know.
Like,
crazy.
I'm not sure whether he just wasn't able to do that, or he's like, you know what, I'm a big guy. I'll just sort of hold this guy off, let him throw a bunch, and then it'll be done. Like, they kept running him afterwards. Bunch of guys got misconducts. Easy cash on our over 40.5 penalty minutes for the game last night. That was the one good thing that happened last night. But I don't know. It's funny just seeing how nasty so many of these games are right now because they mean something and these teams are really battling for something. And this one was more of a team that frankly got embarrassed with their reaction. And it's like they've been trying to catch up and make up for that for the last couple of weeks, and you knew that it would get silly last night in Anaheim.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of felt performative too, though, because again, like you chickened when it mattered. Like, okay, relatively anybody, when it's in a situation like that, can be like, yeah, we're throwing down, But like when it happened in the moment, everybody just cowered away. And so it's remarkable. I guess the one thing though is that we did see this happen in Buffalo last year.
Yes.
Was it Tage that got ran?
Tage Thompson. And no one did a damn thing. And that was to talk to anyone around that team and former players. Like, that team had sucked. They hadn't made the playoffs in 13 years. That for the organization and the team was what was described as the low moment.
Yeah.
Because of what it showed that team had and what they didn't have. And Buffalo, night and day. That, to be honest, I think that is in a lot of ways the catalyst of what they've turned into this year, even after a tough start to the season.
That's exactly it. It's like, in the moment it's terrible, but I mean, they at least have proven that like you can get over it if you handle it the right way. It's funny. I felt it was performative too when they did it the next game, right? It's like, you guys had your chance, you blew it. But it did seem like, I remember too, Rasmus Dahlin saying something along the lines of like, a bunch of beers were had over the last several months, and like it's a closer team, and obviously it's maybe the story in the NHL this year, which is what they've been able to do right now. So it's easy right now, I think, too, to say like it's all doom and gloom. It's not going to work out for the Leafs. Nobody cares about each other because Buffalo. If Buffalo could do it, it's like, hey, maybe anybody could do it. I will say though, and again, shocking to say this, but the Sabres were in a much better spot to bounce back in the standings than the Maple Leafs are at this point. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if the Doug Armstrong rumors come to fruition. There's been so much smoke around that I wonder if it's just a poorly kept secret right now. But I do not envy the next guy that has to step up to the mic at that introductory press conference, because
clean up on aisle 5.
Yeah.
Clean up on aisle 5. This is a big job. It might take you a while. You bring up Buffalo, and I'm watching these games out in the East, and I mean they are nasty. They're aggressive. Everyone's in. I mean, obviously, I'm loving what Bones has done with Columbus, and he's, it echoes what he said when he got here to Winnipeg, that you run at one of us, you run at all of us. And now listen, I don't want to go too hard on the Jets because we know why they're in that situation. I mean, they brought Luke Schenn in. Listen, I didn't think he was very good on the ice and didn't help them very much, but he certainly was a guy that would stand up for a teammate. And Logan Stanley, frustratingly through his time, maybe didn't always play that role, but certainly graduated into it, and I think, accepted it more later on. That's part of the reason why there was the demand for his services and they made the trade that they did. I got to tell you, though, I mean, the Barron thing last week was disappointing that there was no backup for him. And I know he was playing, I think, with Rosine and Lambert. Although I'll tell you what, those guys could have done a lot. Like, even if they're not going to go in and fight, just getting into a scrum or helping out their teammate, I think that could have done a lot for those guys. But I got to tell you, Brandon, I mean, I have been in a bad mood thinking about this on this topic for the last little bit. Just and again, this is more about next season of what I'd like to see come into this Winnipeg Jet locker room. It's some more guys that you're going to be able to go to war with, because that's what you need to play in the playoffs, to play against the top teams. Look at how Florida won the last couple of years, and for Hellebuyck to get cross-checked in the throat in that Pittsburgh game. And I don't want to pick on Dylan Sandberg, but I mean, he was the guy right there and basically didn't as much as look at the guy. And then Ross Colton going and, kicking out Hellebuyck's feet last time. And certainly nothing to Josh Manson. Like, to me, I mean, I know you got to be fast, you got to be skilled and all that, but there is an element of this game that is tough, that is nasty. And to me, there is a big, big job to juice that factor up for the Winnipeg Jets next year if they want to compete with the top teams in the West and be a legitimate playoff team that can match up against what they're going to get from a lot of these top nasty teams in the NHL.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating topic just in general, because I mean, look, the easy thing is you need a mix of both, right? Like, you can't go all. I mean, we saw what happened with it's funny, the Maple Leafs tried to go, pugnacious and truculent and all that, and then they don't do it when it matters the most, when their captain gets cheap shotted. But like, you go too far in that range, you lose too much in the skill department. You go too heavy in the skill department, teams like Florida, Dallas, I think plays really heavy and physical. They'll eat you alive come postseason. So it's all about balance for sure. I think for me, when you look at that, and especially for teams trying to take the next step, I think the first question that needs to be answered is, do you have the talent to get by, first off? If the answer is no, you got to get that first. You do. It's undeniable. You're just not going to go through 4 teams, win 16 games without a good amount of that high-end talent. And then once that's in place, that's where, I don't even know if it's necessarily intangibles. You know what I mean? But that's what you add if you want to get a little more physical, nasty, bring that element to it. I think it's easier to find those supplementary pieces second than to bring those in first. And then, okay, how are we going to find a 70-point guy, or your second line center, or whatever it is? So they need both, which is problem.
The unicorns are the guys that can do both, because I mean,
Exactly.
listen, I mean, I would never listen. I guess if your team is just a really small, weak team, I mean, yeah, you need to have a couple guys that can go out and be enforcers. But I mean, look at the top quality team. Look at a team like Florida. That team is just generally nasty, and you've got Tkachuk, you got Sam Bennett. And I mean, those sort of guys, the way they go into the fight, it makes the other guys, I mean, you're either with us or you're not. And it brings them in. And that's obviously not there with Winnipeg right now.
No.
And we'll see. Like, I'm interested into how this plays out, because honestly, like a game like tonight, they're playing a team that's got nothing going. Like, I expect this to be a no-hitter, and hopefully the Jets can go in and do what they have to do. But, like, for instance, in a week and a half when the Flyers are in town, that could be a game that is massive for both sides. That will be like a playoff. That potentially could be like a playoff game. And how you're able to go up against, especially those teams in the East that are playing for keeps, I think is going to be something that hopefully either way, some lessons are going to be learned going forward. By the way, speaking of your Flyers, what is going on? Like, we joke about, the Jets are back. Are they back? Are right there. I mean, the Jets with a win tonight can be 1 point out of a playoff spot. If the Flyers beat Washington, depending on what happens, they could be tied for that 8th playoff spot. And nobody had that 2 or 3 weeks ago.
No, it's insane. Like, it's not one of those like shooting percentage or save percentage benders. Like, they're they went toe-to-toe with Dallas on the second end of a back-to-back, and they were the better team. Like, they're just playing really good hockey right now. And you get the Marton boost tonight as well. Like, it's one of those rare vibes are high in the city of brotherly love right now. Let's see how high they can run this thing. But I mean, it's wild too that they could end up the season with 100 points and be sitting on the outside of the playoff line, and that would get you home ice advantage in the Pacific for the rest of eternity. So it's but they're playing good. That's it. You want to talk about teams that play physical and play for each other. I think they're a great example of that. And if it is a playoff type game at Canada Life Center in a week and a half or so, you'll see that in a big way. And it's funny, it's a team too that's trying to thread that needle of how do we get skill, but how do we play more of a Panthers style of way. Interestingly, they do have a guy that's a big right shot defenseman who was on the trade market last year. I do wonder if the Jets revisit maybe Erasmus Ristolainen as a potential Morrissey partner. So something to keep an eye on as that game gets closer, but they're in the mix right now, man. It's just, it's hard to handicap the wild card race in both conferences for the exact opposite reason, because I don't know who's going to win a game in the West, and I don't know who's losing too many games in the East. So I feel like I'm going to look foolish trying to pick a winner and a loser out of the two wildcard chases.
I'd have a lot of time for Ristolainen coming in. The issue, and this is always an issue with Winnipeg, is not that they couldn't trade for him, that he's only got one more year after this. You'd basically be getting him in a contract year. Now, I guess there could be some sort of a trade with an extension agreed to if he was down to do that. But again, there's a lot of money out there for a lot of these guys, and I think we're going to see more and more of them say, well, we'll get to July 1st and we'll see what's up, unless you just blow the socks off. Can't have you on the program without telling me where you were, what you were doing, and your reaction on Sunday afternoon when you saw the alert that Torts is back. Your guy Torts on the bench of the Vegas Golden Knights with 8 games left in the season.
I look like this ear to ear. It's amazing. And how many times do you legitimately get shocked by, sports news or any kind of news nowadays, right? Like, it just, nobody saw it coming, and it's cinema. Like, it's going to be amazing. I think it's going to work out too, to be honest. I think it's the contract till the end of the year. I think it's going to get those boys in Vegas playing some inspired hockey. Now, the tricky part is, can he get a save? And it's tough for a coach to be like, hey, stop the puck, and the goalie listens to you. It either happens or it doesn't. But they'll be blocking a few more shots in Vegas. I do know that. But whatever you think about him, the NHL is a more exciting place when Torts is behind
100%.
the bench.
That's exactly what Remis said to me.
It.
It's exactly, we were texting on Sunday afternoon, and I'm like, oh my God, this is incredible. And then I say, I have to admit, I kind of love it. He's like, hey, NHL, way better with Torts. And to have it with this sort of drama and intrigue coming in of all the teams, I got to admit, when you think about Torts and teams that he ideologically seems like a perfect fit with, it is absolutely the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a ton of fun until one of those boas from the Showgirls hops over the glass. Get that all right. So we'll see what happens there. But like, I don't know. Vegas isn't playing terrible hockey. They're just not. Their shooting percentage is really low. Their save percentage is also low. And those teams, once they tend to correct, right? And I just wonder if he's coming in at the perfect time. I'm not shying away from Vegas making a run.
No, I'm not either. But I will say, and I saw Jay Fresh's tweets, hey, they've done the best at shots and stuff. I watched a lot of these games lately, and there really had been kind of just something missing from that team. Well, and maybe it was goals and saves. But don't worry about Bruce Cassidy. He'll be back on a bench very time soon. He'll probably make a nice extra check on a panel during the postseason, and then he'll pick his spot of available jobs in the offseason. Brandon, great stuff as always, pal. Thanks for doing this. Enjoy the games tonight.
Sounds good. Have a good one. We'll talk soon, guys.
Check out Skates and Plates wherever you get your favorite podcast material. Speaking of podcasts, one of your other favorite podcasters, Ken Wiebe of Kenny and Rennie fame and the Winnipeg Free Press, is boots on the ground in Chicago. He's up next on WST. Stick around. Princess Auto is a proud sponsor of Winnipeg Sports Talk, in a lot of ways synonymous with Winnipeg. Headquartered here in the Peg, founded here in Winnipeg, and now serving Canadians coast to coast with the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. So while we wait for the Bombers to kick off, get ready for spring. Those projects on your list with great deals throughout the month waiting for you at your local Princess Auto, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West in the city, out in Brandon, and you can always shop online 24 hours a day at princessauto.com. Spring is just around the corner, and our friends at Chud's Power Sports up in Gimli, Manitoba's power sports superstar, are ready to get this snow out of here. But before we do that, great end-of-season deals on sleds and snowmobiles that you can check out. But as we get excited for the snow to leave, great preseason deals on motorcycles of all brands, the best in ATVs and side-by-sides, not to mention golf carts for the summer up ahead as well. And it doesn't stop there. Amazing RV options for you to take advantage of the summer, and so many options when it comes to boats as well, in addition to outboard motors from Suzuki and Mercury. The best deals in town. That's how they've been in business as Manitoba's power sports superstore for 80 years. Pop out and see him in Gimli at the corner of Highway 8 and 231, and shop online today at their website at chudspowersports.com. April and spring are here, and Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery are kicking it off strong. Spring Power event. Right now, you can save big on the batteries that you actually need this season. Lawn tractor batteries starting at just $37.50. RV and deep cycle batteries from $69.50, and heavy duty power like Group 27 and 78 DT starting at $89.50. Need serious cranking power? Check out their 13-inch stud post battery, $94.50 while supplies last. All in stock and all priced to move. Visit Manitoba Battery on the north side on Logan Avenue, on the south side on Dovercourt Drive, and get powered up for spring at Manitoba Battery, powering what matters. Check them out online today at manitobabattery.com. All right, Weber's locked and loaded, ready to go. Hey, this segment is brought to you by our Prairie Toyota dealers. Looking to dominate off the ice as much as you do on it? Check out the Toyota Tacoma. Its standard I-Force engine boasts an impressive towing capacity of up to 6,400 pounds. In fact, it's the most powerful Tacoma ever. So whether you're hauling gear to the rink or heading to an away game, you can tackle it with ease. The available panoramic multi-terrain view monitor gives you a live underfloor view to navigate even the toughest terrain with ease. And when it's time to load up, the available power liftgate makes loading your gear in and out a cinch. Experience power, capability, and convenience with the Toyota Tacoma. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Prairie Toyota dealer during Red Tag Days from March through May. To Chicago we go and welcome in Ken Wiebe of the Winnipeg Free Press. Weber, what's up?
Andrew, great to be with you. Got the Berkey going here, not quite ready to get the tie on, but yeah, beautiful. Well, today it's pouring rain in the Windy City, but it was a nice evening last night at Wrigley, always a bonus, and I got a little culture into. I went to see Hamilton, the musical, Sunday night after arriving. So
repeat business. You're a big fan of Hamilton. That's the word on the street.
Yeah, it's true, Huss. It's the third time I've seen it, and actually the second time I've seen it in Chicago here. So different cast, but again, this is last-minute deal, Huss. I mean, tickets were ridiculously expensive. I was just about to get ready to go for dinner. 7 o'clock show. Looked at my phone at StubHub at 6:25. Last-minute savings, and good Manitoba way. I had to hopped in, got a good deal. Hopped in an Uber quickly, and much like sports, Huss, any chance you get to see people at the top of their profession, have to take it in when you can.
I did not know that you were one of these musical guys. Have you? Now, is
Jock
it just
Plus, Andrew,
Hamilton,
Jock
or
Plus.
Have you been to a bunch of other ones too?
Yeah, try to go in New York whenever possible. I think my record was seeing 5 in 1 year. So, yeah, bring them all on. Les Mis, Phantom.
I've known you for a long time.
It's true, Huss. Yes,
completely new.
Yes, and again, sang in the chamber choir 1 year in W.C. Miller Collegiate, and I enjoy the musicals. It's true. Jock Plus, let's call it.
I love it. And something that I would have totally expected you to do. Get to Wrigley Field, and I know you weren't there to see Taves' first pitch or Hellebuck chugging the Bud Light when he was celebrating his gold medal and Presidential Medal of Freedom, but you did see him last night. What was the Wrigley experience like? It's one of a kind.
It really is, Huss, and again, I've been fortunate to have been to all 30 parks, but Wrigley is the place I saw my first big league game. Back in the late 90s, when a group of good folks from Altona hopped in my Ford Escort and made the drive down.
Yes.
So, it's a cool place to be. Went with Kevin Pratt and stats guy John Matheson. Sat in the upper deck in the 400s, but inside the bases. And again, great seats, great night. And honestly, almost 30 degrees at the ballpark, Huss. I've been to Wrigley for May long, and often you need a sweater or a jacket, but it 30? Was just... No, it was 20. It was 77 Fahrenheit. It was like 26. It was ridiculous.
Snowing here.
I know it was ridiculous. Beautiful night, like golf shirt and shorts. Like it was bananas. And then again, when you go to Chicago at the end of March, you're thinking you're going to need not a parka, but you're going to need a sweatshirt, pants. Maybe you have your gloves hidden in your pockets. But just a beautiful night at the ballpark. Fun game. Couple home runs. Hap hit a home run. Moncado. It was fun. It was just a lot of. Any night at the ballpark is a great night, Huss. We know it's been we've talked numerous times about the condensed and wild nature of the schedule. So with this rare break, a 2-day break between games, it was nice to sneak a few things in.
Well, and it was cool to see most of the Jets out there watching JT do it
all
all
of the Jets.
Oh, the entire team was there? Yeah. I didn't know whether, we saw a picture and we saw pretty much a good crew of them sitting down, having a blast. And I'm sure that the vibes were a lot higher for that outing, considering what they managed to pull off on Saturday. I mean, Ken, listen, you look at the numbers and it's still 10% or whatever. That'll go up significantly to 15 or so if they can win tonight. But just the fact that we are talking about a situation where the Winnipeg Jets can get to within 1 point of the playoff line with a win tonight is not something I had on the bingo card a week or two ago, to be perfectly frank.
Well, Huss, when the Jets were 11 out, it was natural to think that way. Even when the Jets got to 5, they stayed there for I think 4 or 5 games. So I think it's sort of they sort of stalled a little bit. The folks around them started winning a bit. Now all of a sudden, the folks that were winning around them have sort of gone into the tank here.
The
now,
weekend scoreboard was a beautiful thing if you're in that Jet dressing room.
Well, Huss, 3 losses in a row for Nashville when it looked like they may never lose again, right? So it's a wild scenario for sure. And we also know Seattle plays tonight, but they play Edmonton. So Seattle could overtake Nashville with a win, but still, if the Jets can narrow the deficit, whether it's to 3 or 2, for them, that would give them a lot of confidence going into the end of this trip, which we know is tough with Dallas. But again, guess what? Columbus has been on this incredible heater under Rick Bowness, and now they've suddenly lost consecutive games. So,
did you see how that happened on the weekend?
Well, I saw Rick's reaction. I didn't see how it happened, but I did see
Rick. They
gave
up a last-minute goal to San Jose to lose in regulation, and then Boston scored with 11 seconds left, and they won it in OT, and Columbus turns 4 points into 1. Luckily for them, there's enough spots with all those teams that it's not devastating, especially the 1 point. But that's going to be a very hungry team that the Jets find out. But the bottom line is you can't think about Dallas, you can't think about Columbus, because those games, frankly, lose a lot of their juice if you can't get it done tonight against a very young Blackhawks team that has sort of reverted to the team that we'd seen in the last few years coming down the stretch and are now 31st in the league, I believe.
Well, Huss, here's the wild thing, right? So they've won, I think I got them down for 2 wins in their last 9, but and they're clearly with both feet in next year country. But if you look up at the standings, you mentioned they're down to 31st, but they're only 7 points behind the Jets. So, that's why you say, I mean, a potential loss to the Blackhawks would be devastating in the overall picture, right? On the playoff picture side anyway. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I think, from talking to some of the people around the Hawks a lot, the mood is so different, right? I mean, this is a team that had, they actually were in the race for, a nice chunk of the first half. Their second half's been kind of tough on a lot of fronts. They had some major injuries and just sort of their play dipped. And then, when you trade three of your leaders like Nick Foligno, Jason Dickinson, and Connor Murphy, it's natural that, you're going to have some growing pains again here. But, bringing in guys like Anton Frundell, third overall pick in last year's draft, he's been outstanding out of the gate, 4 assists in his first 4 games. And yeah, I mean, they're still a really fun team to watch. And as Scott Arneal pointed out in the presser today, I mean, you better respect them or you're going to, this team has already lost once to them this year, Huss, in the 2-0 loss in the Taves return here. So you can be sure that the Jets are going to be on their toes. I mean, they haven't had a 2-day break in a long time, and they were able to, get refreshed, go to have a team function and all those things. And I'd expect them to be quite sharp because Huss, I mean, quite frankly, as you mentioned, I mean, some of them, although they said all the right things about belief, when you're 11 points out, it's hard to have true belief that a playoff spot is really in question. And now you look up and you have a chance to pull within a point or two with, 9 games, I guess it would be 8 games left after today. So yeah, I'm expecting the Jets to be sharp. And, again, we don't have the same pomp and circumstance as we did last time for Taves' first game back in Chicago. But there's still going to be a good buzz around the building, and us having been in the building for that, thunderous ovation. And honestly, almost every time the puck was on his stick in the game, you got the sense that even though he played for the opponent, if Taves ever scored, whether it's tonight or that night in January, I honestly think it's going to sound like a home game if he finds the back of the net, Huss. I mean, you were watching. I mean, that was wild. Every time the puck was on his stick, he had that one scoring chance. It seemed like people in the building wanted him to score.
Oh, yeah. I'm with you. And to be honest, I mean, we all know what the situation is for teams that are basically out of it right now. Not the worst thing if they lose this game. Like, I just pulled up Money Puck and it says this is a big game for the Jets. A win in regulation would move them to 14.8, basically 15%. Blackhawks, this is a completely meaningless game for the Hawks, and it's just 0. Now, again, that's for making the playoffs.
Right.
But a loss in regulation still is basically, I mean, we're just talking about percentage points of fractions of 1 percentage point for the lottery. But you bring up a great point, because as much as the Jets have done enough to get close to where they need to be in the league-wide standings, while the Jets could be 1 point away from from the playoff spot, they're also basically a couple losses away from being back into the top 5.
4th and 5th, yeah, for sure.
I mean, the Blues and the Panthers are 1 point back of the Jets. They've all played 73 games. The Blues have been playing great hockey. They lost last night. They came back. They were down 4-2. They scored 2 in the third to tie the game up. And then San Jose scored in that final minute. There's been a lot of sort of buzzer beaters, which is huge for San Jose, who's still in the mix, because they actually are the team that have the games in hand, which is why when you look at the playoff odds, like, you have all these teams, Ken, and basically the Jets have the lowest at 10 to 15, depending on tonight. And in between them and the Kings, who have the highest percentage chance at 33, are the Sharks, the Predators, and the Kraken. I mean, there's not really even a favorite for this right now, other than the Kings have the best chance, I think, because of who's on their schedule the rest of the way, which includes 2 games against Vancouver.
Right, but they also have to play Nashville on Thursday, right? And in one of the games, it could be the swing game here in this wild and topsy-turvy type of race.
They got 2 head-to-head games, actually.
Right, but one this week here, which could have big ramifications in terms of where the Jets are sitting. So it's wild, Huss. I mean, the Jets play the Kraken head-to-head. They play the Blues coming up, and they play the Sharks in the last game of the regular season, which I think 3 weeks ago we wouldn't have anticipated that game having, a whole lot of meaning for either team. Now it could, ultimately determine maybe who the 8th seed is. So anyways, neither one of those teams can get ahead of themselves. And as you mentioned, I mean, a loss today isn't crippling, but it certainly would be a big blow. When a team goes into a week with 2 against Colorado and 1 against Vegas and comes out with 2 out of 3, they're feeling pretty good about things overall. And, a loss to the 31st team, first overall team would put it would pretty
also
big
put
damper.
And listen, it would put you to 4%. I mean, basically would put into a situation where you'd have to run the table the rest of the way.
For sure.
I mean, it's hard to, just because of these teams playing each other. I mean, you just can't count on everybody losing the way that happened on the weekend. Again, you mentioned there's head-to-head matchups. The Sharks are playing them. The Blues are in there. So, I mean, any chance the Jets have to do it, they just need to get on this run that sort of evaded them throughout the year. But I guess in a lot of ways, better late than never. We saw Gus Nyquist taken out of the lineup, and they went with Danny Zhilkin and Parker Ford on Saturday in Denver. They're running back that lineup as well. Do you think we see Nyquist again this year? I mean, I'm kind of thinking that if they lose at any point over this next little bit, it basically becomes next year territory, and they're going to play the young guys anyways. And the fact that those young guys were in and obviously held up well against Colorado, they're probably not changing the lineup when they win either.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, Huss. I mean, Nyquist, technically is banged up to a degree, not wearing yellow like both Nino Niederreiter and Vlad Nemestikov are, but as far as I know, those guys are still under emergency conditions. So, I mean, again, that can change, and the Jets have room to call them up on regular recall if they have to. But yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to predict us. I mean, I think that they're going with the young legs and the energy that both those guys provided in the game, and you can understand why. So, again, I couldn't definitively say Gus Nyquist has played his last game in a Jets uniform, but because things change, right? Injuries happen.
Well, for sure.
Weird stuff happens. But again, I think that we've talked about this before. I mean, if you want Danny Zhilkin, I know the Jets are still thinking about this year, Huss, and they have to when they're that close. But if you're thinking Danny Zhilkin might have a chance to be your 4th line center next year, if you're thinking about moving Morgan Barron up the lineup, I think it makes a lot of sense for Danny Zhilkin to get plenty of runway during this last 9-game stretch here. So, and that would also be interesting too. And Scott Arneal didn't want to get into it because he's not around the team. But I mean, I certainly was not expecting the tweet from Dave Minuk that showed Morgan Barron on the ice a couple days after going into concussion protocol. So, last time you and I spoke, Huss, I mean, I thought there was a better chance that Morgan Barron would be a ways down the road, and maybe he still will be. And that's the thing with concussions. You never know when the headaches or symptoms are going to come. But the fact that he was even back on the ice was a very positive sign for him, and the Jets need him back. I mean, Huss, he's been one of their most consistent forwards here lately.
I mean, I guess it's an automatic week in the quiet room if you go into the protocol. Like, that's
still some gray area on that. I know it used to be at least 7 days, but it's more related to symptoms and baseline tests and all that. I'm not saying that you can beat the test or whatever else, but I think that if you're clear, like, there would be the outside chance that he could join the team later in the week. But Scott Arneal didn't. Huss, it's the time of year where coaches don't want to talk about injuries, and he's basically said, I don't want to talk about guys who aren't here. And if you happen to see him on the ice, and I don't think it would be Dallas, but if he happens to show up for the morning skate on Saturday, then maybe he's an option. But
yeah,
it seemed like, at least for now, that he's going to stay back in Winnipeg, and until he's back around the team. But again, once he's been cleared, they want him in there. I mean,
yeah, we played Arnie earlier. It didn't sound like he had any hopes of this road trip. But again, based on the week, like, if he all of a sudden is good to go and they managed to win tonight and get a win in Dallas,
right?
I'm sure the urge would be there just to get him in for that lineup on the game
agreed.
Against Columbus. But listen, if he can play against Seattle, they would love to have him back and go from there. Just while we're talking about Ford, Zhilkin, Lambert, Rosine, I would suggest that tonight's game against a very young Chicago team. Huge opportunity for every one of these young players to, with a really strong game, not only put themselves in a good position to stay in the lineup moving forward, but, if you want to be a regular NHLer, going up against a number of contemporaries and similarly young players seems like a pretty darn good chance to maybe get a little bit of momentum on this road trip for the young guys.
Yeah, for sure, Huston. I mean, the one thing, even though Jeff Blashill's done a nice job of helping this team play with more structure, and again, we saw it in the 2-0 shutout for Spencer Knight in the last meeting in this building, they are a little bit looser defensively without Dickinson, without Connor Murphy. So if you're Brad Lambert, this should be an opportunity for you to put some of that flash and dash on display, as long as you're doing it within the structure. And in terms of Roseanne, I think too, he's done a nice job of showing off, his skating ability, Hust. But I think you and I talked about it. He's got such a wicked shot. He needs to find more ways to increase the volume on that front. And just going back to Lambert, Hust, I think Brad, quite frankly, I didn't have a chance to ask him about it today. Brad's got a score to settle in this barn, Hus. Dating back to last year, this is the place where he basically missed that open net in the game against the Hawks. He had a great chance for his first NHL goal. I think the next night they played Columbus back in Winnipeg. It didn't go as well. And again, I'm not saying it was something that haunted him, Hus, but it was a big opportunity for a big goal at a big moment. And, for what he was under pressure and the shot went wide. And, it took him a while to recover, quite frankly, down with the Moose, I think. And again, I haven't had a chance to dig into it with him, but I do think that this is a building where, you'd want to get the good feelings kind of going, I guess, Hus. And even too, I thought that his consistency level has been pretty high. I didn't notice Brad as much in that game against the Avalanche on Saturday, but again, that's normal for a young player. But if you're Brad, you want to be able to stack good games upon good games for the majority of these final 9. And doing so against a much younger defense core, but they're also tall and rangy, Hus. That's the other part about this team. Guys like Crevier and Vlasic and some of those other guys, pretty big dudes. So, but again, you got a bunch of guys that defending wouldn't necessarily be the forte of some of this group. So there should be some opportunities available for those guys you mentioned. And for Zhilkin, again, you don't know how many opportunities you're getting. He was pretty solid in the games he got before he got sent back. Steady in his first game back. You got to stack as many good games, show off your dependable two-way game, try to generate some offense, but use that skating ability and be dependable. That's what those guys have to do to stay in the lineup.
Thoughts on the defense pairings right now? DeMello's back up with Morrissey, Salamonson playing with Bryson. What kind of was the catalyst to all of that? And do you think it stays like that going forward through the rest of this week?
Well, Huss, I think part of the catalyst is the Pionk and Morrissey pairing wasn't generating the types of results that you would expect from two of the guys who have kind of anchored the two pairings to some degree over the last couple of years here. Again, my feelings on this. I think that Elias Salamonson has done an exceptional job when being used in a top 4 role, whether that's with Morrissey or with Samberg. We'd primarily been with Samberg for the bulk of those minutes in that shutdown role. I think he handled them quite well, to be honest. I think in this situation, I think he's just leaning on the experience. But as we saw the other night in the 4-on-4, Huss, Salamonson in a 4-on-4 was out there beside Morrissey and conducted himself pretty well. So again, we sometimes get caught up in where the guys are listed on the depth chart. I think as long as the minutes are still there, as long as you don't see a reduction in minutes for Salamonson to that 10-11 minute range, I think he can continue to grow as a player. But again, if you're asking me if I prefer him in the top 4 grouping, yes, I do. But also, there were some hiccups last week, which are normal for any player. So I think that Salomonson's done an excellent job. He's got lots to learn still, but his skill set should hold up well down the stretch here. And I think in a lot of ways, it's a compliment to him that they feel comfortable playing a rookie alongside Bryson, who hasn't played a ton of games this year at the NHL level. But again, that you can flip-flop DeMello and Salamonson at any time, essentially. And, occasionally when the Jets are chasing the game, they go to Pionk Morrissey to look for a little bit more offense. So,
yeah, To be fair, I mean, listen, I've criticized Dylan DeMello at times, and certainly I thought he deserved the demotion after the disaster of a start of a game against Pittsburgh. And I do think that long-term, an upgrade at that right D position on the top pairing is something that the Jets need. But I'll also give him credit for the way that he played against the Avalanche.
For sure.
I mean, I think this is a guy that heard the message loud and clear, got an opportunity to get back up with Josh. And, I mean, he played almost 22 minutes. He ended up being a +2. Elias was just under 14. Jacob Bryson was 9. So you did see a little bit more. But, especially you're playing in a tight game. I mean, it's one goal. I think that actually affected a lot of things in that game, just with just how tight it was. And then, I got to tell you, we won't need to get into the whole team toughness conversation again. But for a team that's lacking quite a bit of it, I got to tell you, I loved what I saw from Cole Perfetti in that game. Cole Perfetti is not taking it. And he was getting into it.
Actually,
I was just about to say, at the end of there's probably 5 different Avalanche players that were either grabbing him or taking a spot, and he was not just sitting there meekly taking it. And I got to tell you, I think that's a big part of why he was actually rewarded with that goal with 5-6 minutes left in the game that became so pivotal. He is not backing down from what he's getting. And let's face it, the more he plays, the more of an impact player that he is, the more teams are going to try to do exactly that. So I've really liked his game lately, and along with his line mate, Gabe Vilardi, who has just been, I know we focus a lot on Scheifele and Connor because they're the top line and they have all the points. What Vilardi's done moving down and really being a driver on that line should not be forgotten this year. I mean, the success the Jets have had of late has had 13 all over it on most wins.
Yeah, no doubt, Huss. I mean, Gabe Vilardi's having an exceptional year, career highs in both goals and points and games played, and his ability to stay healthy. And again, it's always a delicate subject, Huss, because guys who have been hurt before don't like talking about being hurt. I mean, there's always this thing, you don't want to get jinxed and whatever else. And even last year, Huss, I mean, he played 71, he played the first 71, and then all of a sudden got hurt in that game against Buffalo and didn't come back until against Game 4 of that series with the Blues. And it's part of the reason I think that series went 7, Huss. I mean, because Vilardi had been such a big impact player, and again, he gave everything that he had when he came back. It sort of derailed his momentum, even though he had gone through a bit of a dry spell offensively. I mean, it was a big blow for a team that, again, on one of the top lines in the NHL that year. The other part too, and Perfetti, I love how when he's played with Vilardi, both of those guys look for their shot a little bit more, I think, right? They're both good passers, but both of them have been looking to shoot a bit more. Adam Lowry's done a great job of being disruptive, Huss. We know the offense hasn't been there, and there have been some challenges coming back from the hip surgery, but Lowry's got points in 3 of his last 4 games. He's sort of got his game back into sort of attack mode, and he's really opened up some space for his line mates as well, Huss. I mean, I really like the way that line has been clicking. And honestly, I mean, again, we knew this couldn't be a one-line hockey team. So the secondary score, again, Gabe is a primary scorer, but having more secondary scoring has been helped by the fact that Vilardi has helped Adam Lowry and Cole Perfetti get going a little bit more offensively.
And just thoughts on Cole?
I love the way Cole's playing, Huss. I mean, this goes back to, I don't know if it's maybe Christmas, definitely Olympic break, but I thought even going back to the Christmas break, I think there were 1 or 2 games where maybe it wasn't quite there, but I love the way that Cole has played since the calendar year has turned. I've said it all along, and people have been annoyed by it, but it's true. I mean, the healthier Cole gets, the better he's been playing. And again, 11 goals, it's not going to be where it ends, I don't think, for Perfetti this year, but he's not going to be at 18, 19 like he was previously. But this guy's a 20-plus goal scorer. Again, we all thought that this might be a year where Cole, pushed 25 to 30 and maybe 60, 65 points. So that's not going to happen, obviously, but I think you're seeing a very determined player in Huss. The return of, quote unquote, to use his own terms, Prick Fetty has been an important development because, like you said, it helps get him into the game, but it also helps get under the skin of the opponent. And again, you don't look at Cole and say, oh, there's an obvious agitator, right? When you're looking at him in terms of his stature, but in terms of his competitiveness, this is something he's shown to have a competitive edge since he's turned pro. But adding that element has been important for him on a number of levels, and I just think it helps him get into the game. And us, just again, when you have a high ankle sprain, it's hard to get under the skin of the opponent because you need to have the ability to push off and turn quickly, and none of those things are available to you when you're sort of gingerly working your way around an injury like that.
Pretty clear task for the Jets tonight. Find a way to get 2 points, get within one of Nashville, and then see what happens over the course of 48 hours before they head to Dallas to take on the Dallas Stars. Ken, now by my calculations, you were flying Sunday afternoon.
Yep.
Did you land in Chicago, turn your phone on, and
I had Wi-Fi on, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
well,
yes.
you were flying the friendly skies. What was your reaction when you saw the alert of the coaching change in Vegas and the return of Torts?
Yeah, I mean, certainly caught my attention for sure. I mean, Huss, as you were talking about with Brandon, I mean, Vegas does not look like themselves. I mean, I try to listen or watch them regularly. And even in the game in Winnipeg, there were things that just seemed to be a little bit off with how they were playing. Around the room, they're a pretty upbeat type of room, Huss. A lot of the stuff. I mean, I listened to Torts' full 19 minutes yesterday. Some of the comments from the players. I mean, that they sort of lost their spirit at times here in the last couple of months. So again, I think Bruce Cassidy's an incredible coach. He's going to have his pick of the litter when it comes to jobs. But when you're a team that continually finds yourself in the Western Conference Final or beyond, the standard is high, incredibly high, and right now they weren't up to the standard, and they're hoping that there's a bump from John Tortorella. And again, on your introductory presser, things are going to be fine. And, John was asked about some of his classic clips that ended up on television in terms of the exchanges with the late Larry Brooks and things like that. And he goes, you know what? I've made a lot of mistakes. I'm going to make more mistakes, but I'm going to try to be honest with you. Classic that Torts was back in a suit instead of the 3/4 zip or the 1/4 zip. But again, I mean, this team has a lot of components that scream Stanley Cup contender. We know the goaltending has been a struggle, and then, as Brandon mentioned, also, they haven't scored as often because their shooting percentage is low. But this is a team that does a lot of things really well. They've got a great core of players. They've got a lot of depth, and John. I'm not saying John is a changed person. He's always going to be hyper intense, but I think there would have been some benefits for him. It's interesting because Sullivan used to be his right-hand man, right, in that other role. I think that John's demeanor maybe shifted a little bit, being in that assistant or kind of / associate role at the Olympics, and then seeing how well it went for the group. And I mean, he's a guy who I think he was running the forward, so he would have been working with Jack Eichel closely. All to say, I was definitely surprised to a degree, but at the same time, when things aren't going well for a team with the gold standard, it's not a surprise they would sort of try to tap in to that. And we saw all the stats. The new coach bump hasn't really applied to the first 10, 20 games of Torts in certain markets, but I think
it's a different situation.
I would definitely say
situation.
Yes, exactly. And I expect Vegas to look different. And I listened to the majority of the second and third after getting home from the ball game, and in a game where it started slowly against Vancouver, they found a way to get themselves going. So I expect Vegas to be a contender in the Pacific Division, Huss, and it wouldn't surprise me if they find a way to get to the conference final again.
Yeah, well, that Pacific Division is going to be real interesting. I think it's still a 3-horse race, for first
sure.
place, especially with what happened. And then just quickly, I mean, Treleving getting canned, and what was it, the team finding out right after the warm-up before the big revenge game in Anaheim last night?
Yeah, timing definitely odd, no doubt about that. I mean, it sort of seemed like it had been tracking that way, Huss, like just sort of reading the tea leaves and what you're hearing out of the city. But Brad's a great person, as you know. people can say whatever they want about the results. Has been an obviously disappointed year, and he's going to take responsibility for that. But again, there's enough. We know it's a busy schedule. I don't know that the timing is a bit questionable, Huss. I mean, it seems a bit odd now. Again, if you're making that move in order to try to get a head start on the competition, I mean, we know that the year that Jason Botterill was hired by Buffalo, Pittsburgh was right in the middle of, I think, winning the conference final and then went on to win the Stanley Cup. So there's never a perfect time to get a job. We know there's only 32 of them, but again, I think it probably could have been handled a little bit differently. I'm just gonna put it that way.
Wiebe, looking forward to KNR tonight and all of your reporting from Chicago and the Winnipeg Free Press. Safe travels to Dallas. And will you be in Seabus too on Saturday?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Will Sean be there as well?
Sean will be there. Yes, we'll have an on-site production. Yes,
beautiful.
Full
so
on.
I mean, we're gonna have a live KNR with both KNR.
Yes, sir.
In Seabus on Saturday.
Keep it coming.
Yeah, right on. Have a good show tonight, pal. Thanks for doing this.
Yep. Thanks a lot, Huss. Have a great day here. Appreciate it. Cheers.
All right. There's Ken Wiebe. Poor Ken's going to miss out on AEW wrestling tomorrow, but he did get his cultural enlightenment at Hamilton on the weekend. Sorry, Ken.
Say hello to Big Don for me. We used to do the Sunday night sports show together. He is an absolute beauty, as you know.
Full of modesty and humility, as always. And he is joining us right away on the program.
Yes, he told me during the lockout season that he was going to get into hockey more, and I don't think it ever happened, but it's okay, Don. I forgive you. You had other stuff on your plate.
Good stuff, Wiebe. There is Ken Wiebe. Yes, and as we mentioned, tomorrow night, Canada Life Center, AEW. And listen, when AEW comes to town, I don't miss an opportunity to get Don Callis on the program. Probably my favorite interview of the year when he joins us. That is next, right after these on Winnipeg Sports Talk. WST would like to thank our friends at Cleanline Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk throughout the Jet season. When we're doing the Winnipeg Jet lines, we do it with the gang at Cleanline, who are the leaders in Winnipeg residential and commercial plumbing, heating, and electrical services. Your one-stop shop with over 40 years of experience. And like the captain, Adam Lowry, has the back of his teammates, Cleanline has yours with 24/7 emergency services. So when you're in a jam at any time of the day, Cleanline has you covered. 204-500-2001 is the number. Write that one down, 204-500-2001 for 24/7 emergency services from the official plumbing service of the Winnipeg Jets. You can find out more online at cleanline.ca. Well, it's time to get ready for spring with our friends at Royal Sports, Winnipeg's sports superstore, family-owned and operated for over 50 years. And as we get the snow out of here, it is time to get back on the pitch. Royal is the soccer headquarters in town with more boots than you've ever seen. Not to mention great soccer merch from teams and nations around the world. Of course, we got baseball and slow pitch season coming up. They'll get you ready with gloves, bats, everything you need to dominate on it. Of course, they've still got hockey gear, snowboarding gear for those of you making the trip out for spring break, and the best selection of licensed merchandise for fans of the NHL, National Football League, NBA, and of course, Major League Baseball with Blue Jays season just around the corner. Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. You got to see it to believe it. Get down there today and make sure to follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. We still do have plenty of games to get to for the Winnipeg Jets season, and with many on the road, no better place to get together with your gang to watch the squad than your local Boston Pizza. Ice cold schooners, world famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, and of course, Winnipeg Jets pick a player contest where you can win great prizes from BP every time the Winnipeg Jets score. So for the next game or the big game on the TV, head on down to Boston Pizza at your local BP location. Buckle up. And of course, if you are staying at home, you can get the great taste of Boston Pizza by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. All right, much more to come on WST, but first, a big shout out to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
Tomorrow night, Canada Life Centre is going to be packed for the return of AEW Wrestling, Dynamite, and Collision. And it is always our pleasure when AEW is in town to welcome in Winnipeg's own Don Callis, the head of the Don Callis family. And now we welcome in All Elite Wrestling star Don Callis back to Winnipeg Sports Talk in his hometown. Don, what's going on?
You know, Prince, who was one of my favorite artists, had a song called Sometimes It Snows in April. In Winnipeg, apparently it always snows in April. What a depressing deal coming back to this place, I have to tell you.
Hey, you know what? Hey, you that's what made you the gritty star you are. The mean streets of South Central Winnipeg, Manitoba, growing up.
Mean streets of Tuxedo. Was tough. Yeah, one time I had to wash my car because my dad fired the butler.
Those were tough times. Tough times back in the Callas household. Hey, listen, just before we get to tomorrow and the card, business-wise, AEW seems to have a lot of momentum right now. How are things going behind the scenes in the stands? And I mean, you know the business better than anyone else. I mean, what's going on with the promotion as you get back to Winnipeg?
I think Tony Khan does a great job of understanding what the wrestling fan wants, and I think he really delivers a great fan experience. And Tony has been highly intelligent in promoting the Don Callis family, the largest numerical faction in the history of pro wrestling. I have all the best athletes in my group. All my guys are 6'3", 6'4", Lou Thez style physiques, great athletes, multi-sport athletes. And the Don Callis family has really been driving the ratings resurgence here. And not even a resurgence, I would say the ratings going through the roof have been when the Don Callis family appears on the screen. So it's been great.
So essentially, thanks are all to you and the Don Callis family for the surge in popularity of AEW. It's simple.
And the thanks to Winnipeg should be given me for putting them on the map. You know, it's very embarrassing. You know, I land here. I was barely out of the airport. I sadly had to fly commercial this time. And I had 3 people ask me to borrow money, invest in their business. Hey, you have money. These are Winnipeggers. These are Winnipeg. Some guy just hit me up for a 20. I've never met him. It's unbelievable.
Don, as far as the family goes, you have 2 of the biggest stars from Japan ever in Takeshita and Okada in the stable. How are things between those 2 guys? I've seen, it seems like things are getting a little testy a little bit. How do you keep all this star power on the same page?
I would say testy is an understatement. I mean, they actively don't like each other. But here's the thing. You know, I come from a real sports background. So I look, and Tony Khan as well. They own multiple, the Khan family owns the Jacksonville Jaguars. They understand not everyone in the locker room gets along. And I don't even want them all to get along because then they get too comfortable. I like to pit people against each other and reap the rewards. So these guys don't like each other. I don't care. You probably work, probably the people in there probably all hate you, but they still come to work, you know? So I don't think they have to like each other to draw money. And that's at the end of the day. I just want to make money. I want to draw money. I want to be on top.
You have the AEW TNT champion, Kyle Fletcher, one of the top young stars in the business. Like, what's the pecking order right now in the Don Callis family?
The pecking order is number 1 is always daddy. I'm always number 1. And then everyone else is number 2. But you can fall out of favor. Just like, do you have kids at all?
No.
I have a lot of friends who have kids. And what always happens is your children ultimately end up being colossal disappointments at some point if you're a parent. You just go like, God, why did I do this? All this money, and there's such a disappointment. You know what? I never have that. People say you can't choose your family. I did choose my family, and I continue to choose who's a part of my family. And as a result, I'm rarely disappointed.
Well, I mean, you've got all this talent. Who's on the hit list right now for the Don Callis family?
Well, because we're in, every media interview, and I thank you for not bringing his name up. Everyone talks to me about Kenny Omega. Well, why are you talking to me about Kenny Omega? Oh, well, Kenny Omega's also from Winnipeg. She's not from Winnipeg. Kenny Omega grew up in Transcona. Transcona is not even a real place. So they took all the people like Kenny who should have been living behind a fence, and they put them in Transcona. And so all I hear about is Kenny Omega, MJF contract signing tonight. It's going to be a big thing. Kenny Omega and Jack Perry and Brody King against the demand. Kenny. It makes me physically sick.
Where did they? I mean, you came to AEW in 2020 with Kenny Omega. Where did things go wrong between you and Transcona Zone?
Farther than that, it has its roots in Winnipeg. I mean, Kenny's uncle, the Golden Sheik, who was a wrestler, trained me in the wrestling business and was my first manager. And I mentored Kenny from the time he was 13 or 14 years old, first in hockey, football, MMA, and then finally in pro wrestling. So the problem is with Kenny, Kenny's high strung. Kenny is desperate for people's approval. So Kenny started listening to his friends, the Young Bucks, instead of listening to Pappy here. And we had a problem. And I said, you know what? They say he can't be replaced. He's the god of pro wrestling. I gave him that name, but I have replaced him. I've replaced him with Takeshita. I've replaced him with Kyle Fletcher, and I replaced him with Okada. So I hope for nothing but bad things. I hope Kenny Omega gets dropped on his head by MJF and taken and dumped in the Red River.
Well, you mentioned AEW World Champion MJF. Yep. He, of course, had the incredible Rebar Mitzvah ceremony the last time AEW was here. You're on the outs with Kenny Omega. MJF, where are you at with him? And would there be an offer maybe to be part of the family for the guy with the gold?
MJF is a guy I do business with. MJF has filled the coffers of the Don Callis family in order for us to take care of certain businesses. Why? Because everybody knows that I know Kenny Omega inside and out, and they're willing to pay for that privilege to know that information. All of Kenny's medical history, I know it. I was there. I dealt with the doctors, and it's all for sale, let me tell you, to the highest bidder.
Don, as far as the rest of the card goes tomorrow, you mentioned that trios match. So Kenny Omega is going to be in action going up against the Demand. I wanted to ask you, though, about this trios match of the women, the Triangle of Madness, Mina Shirakara, the Brawling Birds. Women's wrestling continues to raise their level, and it seems like some of the best female stars in the world are with All Elite.
Yeah, I think that someone said, I read it somewhere, that this is the best women's roster in the history of the business. This is the best roster, men or women, in the history of the business. Tony Khan is great at assembling talent. That comes from having legitimate sports background. The money's all on the field. So Tony knows how to assemble that. And, one guy we talk about a lot, Will Ospreay, going to be wrestling Pac right here in Winnipeg at Canada Life. And Will Ospreay, I don't always agree with Will Ospreay, used to be a part of the Don Callis family, but Will Ospreay Pac, you might get my money to go watch that.
Yeah, why is he not with the family anymore?
Well, because sometimes people think they can do it on their own. So rather than argue with them, I let them go out, and then I let them come crawling back. And I like them to beg. I like them to admit that they were wrong, and I like them to beg me for my help, because my track record is very clear. Kenny Omega and I, Will Ospreay and I, it's like Brady Belichick, okay? Is one successful without the other? We're going to find out.
AEW star Don Callis with us tomorrow night, 6:30. It gets going at Canada Life Center for Dynamite and Collision. Don, you're known for your humility and modesty. If you could put that aside for a minute and let people know, if they haven't been to an AEW show, what awaits them at the home of the Jets tomorrow night?
Quite simply, I'll say, and I've been going to wrestling shows in Winnipeg. I went to my first one when I was 7 years old at the old Winnipeg Arena, AWA. I've been to all the shows here. This tomorrow night will be the best show you've ever seen, just based on the talent that is there. And one thing Tony Khan and All Elite Wrestling always do, we say it's where the best wrestle, and that's not marketing, that's a straight shoot.
What will you be up to tomorrow night?
I'll be doing what I always do, controlling things from behind the scenes, not telling even luminaries like yourself what I'm going to be doing, because I like to surprise people. I like to shock people. And I am fixing to have a shock and awe campaign tomorrow night in Winnipeg for the Don Callis family. We're up to 16 members. It's fantastic. My injured reserve list is bigger than some factions. It really is an incredible juggernaut that is descending on Winnipeg.
How do you do transport? Do you have just your own dedicated bus or a luxury vehicle?
Bus. Well, I'm not a Winnipegger. I don't ride public transit. I don't ride buses. I don't even like to fly commercial buses. You have any idea how much I hate being back in Winnipeg? Oh, it must be really nice. It's like, no, I live in Miami. I don't like coming back here. They brought me back here because they want to sell tickets. Very simple.
Well, you've got 24 hours or so before the event. I mean, what will the 24 hours back in your beloved hometown of Winnipeg be like for Don?
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take all 16 members of the Don Callis family, and we're going to walk up Main Street, just like the Crusher used to say in the AWA, and we're going to be looking for fights. So if you're out on Main Street and you see 16 great-looking, young, muscular studs walking towards you, just know we're looking for a fight. We might make a little news right before the show. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll look forward to seeing the family and the stars of All Elite Wrestling tomorrow night, 6:30 bell time at Canada Life Center. Don, welcome home. As always, I know it's a special time for you to spend time back here in Winnipeg.
Thank you for not letting anyone ask me on your staff to borrow money, because that's all I've been getting all day here in Winnipeg.
See you at the ring tomorrow.
Hey, buddy. Thank you.
The one and only Don Callis. As you can tell, I thoroughly enjoyed Don's appearance once again on Winnipeg Sports Talk, and I'm looking forward to a little AEW wrestling tomorrow night at Canada Life Center. Grab your tickets, Ticketmaster. I actually did see, I'm not sure whether it's still on, but the Jets and the Moose were actually doing a good deal where you could get one of the tickets, I think, for maybe Fan Appreciation Night for the Moose and an AEW ticket. I want to check that out on their website or some of their offers. But anyways, if you like wrestling, it'll be a hell of a show tomorrow night. Gets going at 6:30, live coast to coast on the tube, starting at 7 p.m. Hey, I do want to thank our friends at Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. I know it's not really seeming very springy or summery out right now, but that's going to change in a snap. And when the fishing season is on, there is nowhere like Aikens Lake. If you're looking for an incredible fly-in fishing experience where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg, Aikens Lake is the spot. And as great as the world-class fishing is, the hospitality from the Turen family and the Aikens team is even better. Find out more today, aikenslake.com, for more information on booking and availabilities for the 2026 fishing season. Also, want to thank our friends at Breezy Bend because, again, not really golf weather right now, but we're counting down the days till Breezy is open for the year. Of course, the home of last year's Manitoba Open. I cannot wait to get out to Breezy as well. And if you haven't played the course or seen what they've done over the course of the last sort of 10, 12 years with the course improvements, the new clubhouse, practice facility, everything, it truly is one of the jewels of the province and the city and one of Manitoba's top private courses. Find out more information on membership at breezybend.ca or give them a call at 895-7205. Talk to our pal Corey and let him know the boys at WST sent you. All right, we got to get to the cool bet lines. Let's get Remis back in here. Remo, did you enjoy the Don Callis interview?
Yes, 100%. Always brings you're going to get some entertainment, and for a guy from Winnipeg comes here and just dumps all over it. So I don't know if we can claim him as a Winnipegger anymore after that last interview.
He certainly isn't claiming to be one, although he is. But as I said, the known for his modesty and humility, the one and only Don Callis. Oh, I see Comet is planning to enter the Manitoba Senior Championship this summer at Breezy. Comet, maybe we'll have to do the show out there for the senior for one of the days. We'll have you pop by, hopefully, with a great round to brag about. Should be a lot of fun. Let's get to, just before we get to the lines, Remo, of all the things that happened last night in sports, what I didn't expect was the Jays, who I believe were the biggest favorite they had been in any game in over 3 years, to get absolutely pumped by the Colorado Rockies of all teams.
Yeah, we spent the end of last show saying, oh, the Rockies, they stink. They don't have a competitive team. Their run differential last year was embarrassing. And here they are with their first win of the year yesterday in Toronto, who are a huge favorite. And again, Ponce left the game to start with injury. I haven't seen the update. It is Max Scherzer getting the ball tonight for them as the Jays look to rebound against the Rockies.
Yeah, Mad Max on the hill with his first start of the season. An important signing, really, when you think that Ponce is out now. We'll see how long that is. You got Bieber on the IL. Savage isn't ready to go yet. Barrios isn't ready to go yet. So Mad Max coming in right out of the gate in week 1 of the season, which, obviously they want to keep pace. They were undefeated. The Dodgers lost their first game last night. The Yankees lost their first game last night. That would have been a massive, massive payout if we'd bet the Guardians, the Mariners, and the Rockies on a ticket. Jays tonight, minus 278 favorites. Rockies plus 218. The run line for Toronto was minus 1.5. Total for the game is 8.5. Just looking at the cool bet lines, you got the Rangers minus 132 favorites in Baltimore. Pittsburgh, a slight favorite in Cincinnati. Miami Marlins minus 156 at home. How about Canadian Owen Casey with the start of his season? That kid is a player. Looked amazing at the World Baseball Classic and continuing in his new home down in Miami. Phillies minus 192 against the Nats. You got the Braves minus 161 favorites against the Athletics. The Cubs, where Kenny was at last night, minus 147 favorites against the Angels. Brewers minus 132, home faves against the Rays. The Mets and Bo Bichette minus 161 favorites in St. Louis against the Cards. Astros minus 152 faves against the Red Sox. And a couple other late games tonight. You got the D-backs, slight faves against the Tigers. The Giants minus 141 in San Diego. And a pick'em between the Yankees and the Mariners. Dodgers, massive faves, minus 270 against the Guardians. But to the pucks we go. And a big slate of games tonight. Let me run you down your favorites. Dallas minus 130 faves in Boston. Huge game for the New York Islanders after their loss last night to Pittsburgh. They're plus 165 dogs in Buffalo against the Sabres. Ottawa's a minus 182 favorite in Florida. Ottawa desperately needing those 2 points. Devils and Rangers go at it at MSG. The Wings are a slight favorite in Pittsburgh against the Pens. Massive game for Detroit. Less so for Pittsburgh, but they're still right in the middle of it. Pittsburgh minus 103, Detroit minus 114. The Lightning are going to try to break this Habs winning streak. Tampa, who is in first place in their division by account of a tiebreaker, they're tied in points with Buffalo. Tampa's minus 172. The Philadelphia Flyers, red hot, plus 110 on the road in Washington. Caps minus 130. The Blue Jackets, plus 115 home dogs at home against the Canes. Canes minus 135. The Kraken and Oilers are going at it in Edmonton. Edmonton minus 182. Kraken plus 153. And our final game is the Winnipeg Jets. Jets minus 156 favorites. Blackhawks plus 132. When we look at the player goals, I should have got a Taves number for tonight. Well, we don't have one up right now. Pionk plus 640, Morrissey plus 510, Iafallo plus 440, Perfetti plus 210, Velarde plus 185, Scheif plus 136, Kyle Connor plus 114 for tonight's game. It's all there waiting for you at CoolBet. Now, I did put together a 3-gamer for tonight. And, of course, the boys gave us a little boost. Where is it? Right. Oh, it's the Hustlers hat trick tonight. Hustlers hat trick in the combo cards. Tampa Bay over Montreal. Ottawa over the Panthers. And we're going to take Philly as a plus 110 dog in Washington against the Caps. Plus 414 after the boost. Plus 475. So that is there for you. A bunch of other fun exclusives as they always put together. And I should mention, while we're on the topic of the CoolBet lines, Canada playing Tunisia tonight in a World Cup friendly match. Canada minus 172. The draw is 3-1. Tunisia plus 325. Leaning on the big brain of my friend Matt Iwanek, who's been hosting the Lock Shop while Dusty's away. We're rolling with Canada to win to 0. So a shutout for Canada and a Canada win. Plus 146. That is the play today for tonight. World Men's Curling. We've got the Korea-Norway number up right now. Let's just do a quick check-in on that at my favorite site, curlingzone.com. Right now at the Worlds, the standings are as follows. Nicholas Edin and Sweden are 7-0, which is wild considering how much they sucked at the Olympics. The Swiss team is 6-1. Maddie Dunstone is 5-2. I'm just clicking on Canada here. Their games have gone as follows. Do we have the results? They're 5-2 right now. I believe their losses are to Scotland and the USA. They still have to play Sweden. That's tomorrow at night. And they got the Chinese tomorrow in the morning. Today, they were trouncing Poland earlier, and they've got the Japanese tonight. That one will start at 8 p.m. I imagine we'll have lines for that game a little bit later because the Japanese are about to go off in the afternoon draw coming up. Actually, that's starting right about now. So we'll keep our eyes locked on our boy Matt Dunstone and his squad looking to get a world championship back to Canada and back to Manitoba. It's all waiting for you at CoolBet. Poker a week tomorrow. The 8th of April is our next poker game over at coolbet.com. 8 p.m. start. We'll have the bounties on myself and Hammer. Remis is going to be away. And maybe some details on another amazing qualifier series with a massive prize at the end. We'll roll that out in the coming weeks. But poker's back a week tomorrow with Winnipeg Sports Talk. All right, Remo, before we go, how are you feeling about this game tonight?
Well, I'm feeling pretty good. That means they're probably going to lose and disappoint us. And I mean, how many times in the last few weeks have we had, okay, the Jets are 3 points out, let's make it interesting, and it doesn't go well. And I think we thought it was going to go well for them the last time they were in Chicago. So I think they will win, but I don't want to be here tomorrow being like, oh, man, they didn't show up. You know, this is too much fun at Wrigley Field, not enough preparing to play the Blackhawks, like all the stuff we're going to say. But I think, you know, you look at this roster for the Blackhawks, the Jets should win. They're the more desperate team. They're the more desperate team. They've been in Chicago once already, should be used to the whole, as Ken said, like, what if they cheer, if Taves scores? I mean, still a legend in Chicago. So I think that they will win. And the top line, it's, you know, they didn't get totally on the board on Saturday. Their turn tonight, Mark Scheifele. Could he be getting MVP, be in the MVP conversation if the Jets make the playoffs? Someone, Matty Lang, DM'd me his hot take, and I was like, I mean, I don't think that he will, but you could certainly make an argument for it.
Like, do they vote top 5?
I don't know.
I think they vote top 5. Listen, if Scheif gets 100 points and the Jets come back and make the playoffs,
Put him in. He should be.
He might get a 5th place vote or two.
Yes.
I mean, listen, it's going to be Celebrini, it's going to be Kucherov, it's going to be McDavid, it's going to be McKinnon.
Yes.
The question is, who's going to be the 5th guy on those ballots? But I'll tell you what, we can stump. If they run the table, make the playoffs, and he gets 100 points, we will definitely stump for some votes for Mark Scheifele. But there's a lot of work to be done, I think, before we're having that conversation legitimately. All right, that's going to do it for us. We got to get these pods up so people can listen before tonight's game. Don't forget, post-game content will be coming with Connor after the game tonight, in and around when KNR is. We usually will post it. So if you're up late listening to KNR, you can check that out right afterwards, or make a point of popping in on the channel when you get up in the morning to see what Connor and Liz have cooking for their reaction to tonight's game right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk on YouTube and on podcast. That is going to do it for us. Thanks to Brandon Rewucki, Kenny Wiebe, AEW star Don Callis back in his hometown, AEW tomorrow, and of course Michael Remis for making it all happen. I hope you have a great night. Enjoy the game. We will talk to you tomorrow, 1 p.m. with the latest on the race for the second wild card in the West, all the craziness of the East, and more on tomorrow's edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk. We'll see you then. Have a great night.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.